War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of Auburn family news and discussion. Topics ranging, obviously heavy on the sports side of things, but anything orange and blue, we talk about it here on E2C Network Live. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kyle. I am the editor and owner of the E2C Network, which is a family of podcasts that cover Auburn topics, obviously heavy on the sports side of things, mainly there as well. But this is our live show where we just like to get together and connect with you, the Auburn family members, and we're broadcasting live on this stream. Two different platforms at the same time. Mainly here right in front of me is the YouTube stream, and off to my left up here a little bit is the Twitter/Periscope stream. So we thank you whether you're joining us on either of those streams today. And since this is a live show, it thrives off of interaction and hearing from you and your comments and questions. So if you have anything that you'd like for us to discuss today, obviously I have a header topic here that I want to address, and I think that's very important for everybody out there. But we can talk about anything and everything that is in the Auburn spectrum. What's going on? Michael Floyd's on Twitter. He says, War Eagle already. Good to see you. So, yeah, just drop a War Eagle. Hello. You can even start off with comments and questions as you'd like. Big thing you can do for me on this is, and I see somebody's already done it there on YouTube, is smashing that like button if you do enjoy the stream throughout this today, and even the retweet button. It does help spread it out to other Auburn fans to help them join and be part of the conversation today here on this stream. So I do need to share a couple of things with you at the beginning of every stream because we do all this stuff for you all for free, but we want to make sure you're aware of some other things that we're doing so you can go check it out and help support the content that we're doing here. I did mention that we are a podcast network primarily, and right now in the YouTube stream on that chat window, I am putting in the link to the Apple Podcasts link. If you have not checked out our podcast, please do so. A lot of cool content up there. The latest episode is me breaking down the Auburn versus Alabama basketball game and Sharif Cooper's debut. How awesome was that? I know it's a little bit delayed, but I kind of had to work some scheduling things out there in the next basketball games tomorrow. But we at least got the episode out. There's been a new football episode up, and then we're going to have another recruiting show and another basketball show later on this week. So there's a lot going on that you don't want to miss out. It's on any podcast network or podcast app out there. If it's not available in the one of your choice, please let me know, and we'll do our best to get it to you. The other thing that I want to bring up, and a lot of you have asked for me to use graphics and stuff like that. Well, here you go, YouTube folks. Sorry, Twitter folks, you can't use it. These are ways that you can help support our content here on this network. So the main thing is, and we've already discussed, is just listen to the podcast. The other primary way is joining our Booster Club. The Booster Club is available for anybody to go check out at e2cnetwork.com/support or patreon.com/e2cnetwork. And I put the link in the chat window for the YouTube folks. If you want to go check that out and sign up for as little as $1 a month, you can get yourself some perks and help support the content we do here. And there are other ways that you can help support that are listed there as well. All right, so that is the boilerplate stuff at the beginning. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of what's going on. I see a lot of our regular faces are assembling here, so I know that we want to probably get into some discussion points early on. My main topic is who is left on Auburn football's coaching list for assistant coaches. I do have a list from my source, and I want to be very upfront here. This is not coming from me. This is coming from my source, who's been 100% correct the entire time throughout this whole coaching search process. Not doubted this person once. In fact, I know they watch this stream at least sometimes, so I want to make sure I give them credit. This is not coming from me, so don't think that I'm some person that's got all the inside sources. I do know some people. Michael Floyd says retain T-Will. I think we're all holding that banner and waving that flag. I hope so, man. I just don't know. Yesterday I was feeling a little bit more confident about it, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know. Kowalski says one guy beat Ohio State, but War Eagle 365. Yeah, so let me go ahead and address that because I know everybody, even though this is an Auburn channel, we're going to address things like that. Come on. I mean, I don't watch championship games with Alabama anymore because I know here's the result. I either have to watch them. I pretty much have a solid chance of watching them win a national championship, which is not healthy for me, right? I cannot stand watching that. So my wife even like started watching it as we were eating dinner last night. He's like, I'm going to eat fast and get out of here because I just can't be a part of this. Like I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. Ohio State's going to act like they're going to do something, and then Alabama's just going to pull away. I'm not going to watch that. So I had a very productive evening last night working on my many projects that I have going on here for this network and other things. So I didn't watch it. But yes, they did end up winning that. Frederick, what's going on, my man? War Eagle. Hey, I'm school? What does that mean? War Eagle? Or you're in school, maybe. Is that what you mean? Cooper, the guy got skills, period. He's different. He's a difference maker when he's on the court. Absolutely. So this is what I talked a lot about in the episode yesterday. I don't know, Kowalski, if you listened to the podcast, but I talked a lot about the pros and cons that I saw even in game one. Obviously, and there, I try to temper my excitement, and you guys that have been here know, you know that this is I try to play both sides of the equation here, but he's got a lot of good side and some upside as well. Michael Floyd, I think, is at this point on Twitter just trying to hope against all hope that Nick Saban is retiring. I'm just accepting he's going to be here forever, guys. I can't deal with it. Yes, my source has been on point. There have been times where he kind of broke the news to me right before as it was breaking, so he hasn't been like super ahead of the game, but a lot of the time he has, which is very, very, encouraging. I went to bed 5 minutes before 5 minutes left in the first half. I think I watched the first Alabama touchdown because I was sitting down there finishing dinner with my wife, and then we gotta. Here's the thing that you're gonna see come alive here on probably the YouTube and the Twitter, and there it is. There's the first one right there. Y'all won a national championship, and you've got to come over to an Auburn stream and do all that crap. I mean that. Thank you for letting us live in your headspace. 365 days a year, we are in your heads. So there they go. You just expect to see a lot of that today. So let's see. Who are we going to get as a receiver coach? That's a great question, and I think that we should probably talk a little bit about that. So what I said at the beginning of this is that I've got I asked the question, who is Auburn football's list for the rest of their coaches? So let's take a look at that for a second. Let me pull this over so I can actually see it. All right. So we've still got to hire a wide receiver coach, a defensive line coach, a special teams coach, and then potentially another linebacker coach. So there's that as well. So you got to kind of consider that in the scenario if they are going to hire another linebacker coach. Thomas, what's going on, War Eagle, man? Frederick says Cooper and Powell, that's going to be a good backcourt for Auburn. As soon as Powell gets back, yes, I'm ready to see the two of them together. And don't forget Alan Flanagan now. I mean, Alan Flanagan has risen his game up a brand new level this year. So the three of them together, that's impressive. And I agree. I don't know what the deal with Powell is, though. Let's see. All right, so I've got my list pulled up here. So we said wide receiver, defensive line, and special teams, and potentially a linebacker coach is what is left. Does anybody else disagree with that? Is there another coach out there, like another position that you're looking to fill? And we're not talking about like quality control. We're not talking about all that other stuff. We're talking about, simply the big positional coaches that you need to fill. Mike brings up a great point about basketball, and most of you that been the show, we bounce around a lot. He says, don't count out Jamal Johnson. Yes, don't count him out, but I think he's best suited in the sixth man role. Talked about a lot about that on the podcast yesterday. It looks like we're making a push for a 5-star 2022 quarterback from South Carolina now that we have Bobo. I think that was probably everybody's big thing with getting Bobo is his recruiting, and then that potentially, when that goes with recruiting, that guy coming with him. So I'm pretty sure that's probably going to happen. Well, I would say Auburn is definitely in play there. I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not. I was skeptical at first, David says, but I see Brian Harsin striving for Auburn men, culture leaders from Boise State and Southeast recruiters, exact priorities I would have hoped for. So that's a great perspective, David. Yeah, I think what I've stressed with people when we've talked through this coaching situation, the coaching hire for him and now his assistant coaches, is we can't focus all on recruiting. But that's got to be in the top 3 priorities. And I think that he's done that with the way he's brought in some Southeast recruiters, some other area recruiters, and potential to do more. But we'll see who else he brings in on that phase. And then he's brought in some Boise State people that are his type of people, and I think that's a smart thing for him to do. Let's see. Trying to make sure I got everybody's comments here right now. Hope we get Damian Craig at wide receiver, but I doubt he leaves FSU. UCF wide receiver coach left the team. Interesting. I didn't know he had left the team. All right, well, since we were talking about wide receiver coach, let's poll the room. If you had your choice of wide receiver coach out there, who do you pick? Anybody? Just drop names. Who do you want in an ideal world? And look, there's nothing wrong with like shooting for the stars here. Yeah, I think Dabo Swinney was a wide receiver coach. If y'all want to go hire Dabo Swinney to be wide receiver coach, shoot for the best, my friends. That's all I say. Who do you want as your wide receiver coach? Austin Scott says, I'd like Wyatt from UCF. I think that's going to be the popular name. Now, can I be honest with you all for a second? And most of you know this. I'm a huge Cody Burns fan. Huge Cody Burns fan. I love the kid so much. Next to Carnell Williams, he's my favorite player. And there are days where it's literally like a 1A and 1B. And I've gotten into some discussions with people where they're trying to make this notion that he didn't develop wide receivers, and that is completely 100% false. Whenever we get into the discussion of development or no development, it's really not that. It's just a disagreement on the degree of the development, and that's kind of what's going on. So in that case, we can argue all day about that. We're just never going to see eye to eye. But if I had my choices, I would say we retain Cody Burns. But I doubt that is going to happen. Randy Moss, shooting for the stars, my friend. Love it. I'll be honest, I don't really know who the prospects are. I will bring up some of the ones that are there in just a second. Urban Meyer is wide receiver coach. Hear me out. No, just kidding. Maybe Wyatt or McClendon. So what I have on lists that I've talked to from people that are very much in the know about these situations, but also just kind of, some of these are obvious. Y'all have already brought them up. Jax Tiger says Cody. I love that. Maybe he's just pandering, but hey, I'm with you on that one. Some options at wide receiver. We've already brought up Darrell Wyatt from UCF, wide receivers coach. Brian McClendon, Oregon wide receivers coach. Damian Craig, Texas A&M wide receivers coach. Been with Jimbo for a while, and some time at Auburn as well. T. Martin over at Tennessee is a name that's been thrown out there too. And then, of course, Cody Burns. So I think the biggest list in terms of the coaching situation, it sits at wide receiver. And I think that's why there's a lot more discussion about it, right? Because there's a lot more options there. There's some big names out there, Damian Craig being one of them, Darrell Wyatt being another. I think you even throw Brian McClendon in that situation. But personally, I do think, there's probably one or two in those lists that are probably the bigger options there in terms of likelihood. Auburn for the wife says plus. I don't know what that means. I like Cody too, but why they never really use flash like Devontae, pure speed. Well, he's not the same as Devontae, but I see your point, Kowalski. I do. I understand what you're trying to make there, that it did feel like at times that he was not utilized properly, but we don't know what's going on there. Orel says, let's steal Trooper Taylor from Duke. I loved me some Trooper Taylor and Curtis Looper, Troop and Loop, during their times here. I think it's obvious to say that they were probably part of some recruiting stuff that happened while it was here at Auburn. I don't know that that's obvious. I shouldn't say that. I think there was speculation all the time about that, and he was definitely a great players coach and a great recruiter. I don't know that I would want to go down Trooper Taylor route again. There's not really many people that I would just say no to, but I just don't know that I want to go down that route again. McClendon worked with Mike Bobo before. Does that give him an edge over other coaches? You would think that, right? You would definitely think that. But we've seen plenty of situations where just because there's a past history doesn't mean that that's a good history. Think about it that way. A lot of, for a perfect example is, well, that one actually doesn't work out in my head. But anyway, there are plenty of examples out there. Our receivers need to get more aggressive. Trooper didn't think he was still coaching. I know that's what I was shocked with Kowalski was, is he even still out there? But I'm sure he is. His son was playing, and so was Curtis Loopers. So I'm sure they would be in coaching simply for that alone. I would say aggressive. Honestly, I don't even think it's aggressive. I think it's more just hold on to the ball. If we could just get receivers to hold on to the ball, that would be amazing. Kenneth says he would love to have Wyatt. I think, honestly, Wyatt is the more popular choice. Honestly, it's not one that was high on my radar. Not that I've been analyzing wide receiver coaches all that great. If you know anything about me, I love the whole Auburn aspect of anything. So, obviously, Damian Craig would fit that bill for me, or Cody Burns. But I understand that we don't just need to hire someone because they have Auburn ties. Here's the thing. My priority was to have some Auburn men to sell the program. You've already done that with Carnell Williams and Zach Etheridge. You could potentially solidify that need for me and many, many others in the Auburn family by bringing on T. Will as well. I think that is plenty at that point. Or bring on Damian Craig, and I think that's plenty at that point. Preference choice, if we were going to trade T. Will for Damian Craig, I don't like that trade. I'd rather have T. Will, but that's just me. So, yeah, your wide receivers. Is anybody excited about potentially a T. Martin? Do you want to be involved with the Tennessee situation since he's the Tennessee wide receivers coach? But I think there's some good choices here on the list, and it's the most extensive list there. Austin's bringing up a great point that we can move on to. Defensive line coaches, options that I've heard. Jimmy Brumbaugh is one of them. Tennessee, Vic So'oto, USC defensive line coach. And Brick Haley, Mizzou defensive line coach. So I have honestly no idea about the defensive line options there. Does that excite anybody, any of those names out there? Or is there another name that you're hearing that gets you a little bit excited about defensive line? I think also, an obvious choice there is to put Roddy Gardner still in there. I made the statements yesterday that it seems that sometimes the longer these roles go unfilled, maybe that favors the former coaches a little bit. I don't know. Part of me feels that way, but part of me doesn't feel that way. I was amazed by the Derek Mason hire. That was a big win. Josh, I heard and it was on our video for yesterday, our stream. Somebody posted afterward that they thought it was a trash hire. I think it's a UGA fan based off of his title of his name and some things he was saying. So I can't really, it was like gibberish. So I couldn't really tell exactly what was meaning. But, I haven't heard too many people say anything really negative about the Derek Mason hire. I've heard, I love it, or I've heard I'm okay, I'm good with it. Like that's adequate. That's what I needed to see. So I kind of put more stock in people that are saying, they're more optimistic about it, because that seems to be the case. And I would definitely say that Derek Mason right now has me more excited as the hire between him and Mike Bobo. But I'm kind of growing in my Mike Bobo love here a little bit. Let's see. I just missed seeing Trooper going crazy on the sidelines, jumping around, chest bumping players and waving that towel. But you got coaches that have been doing that under Coach Malzahn. T. Will is one of them. Al Pogue's one of them. I do think that they are great coaches, players. I think, Carnell probably does that a little bit. So maybe not to the level and the style of a Trooper Taylor, but definitely we do miss that just a little bit. But I think there are some things that come with that maybe aren't that good. By the way, I just saw someone do it. If you are enjoying the stream, please do make sure you smash the like button on YouTube. It does help the stream out. And just a little quick reminder as well, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an opportunity to be part of these streams, because we don't do them at scheduled times here. Let's see. I'm kind of trying to get here. I will take Ty Chandler and Wea Morris from Tennessee, but not T. Martin. Seems like a lot of people are not on the T. Martin bandwagon here. Doesn't seem like a name that gets people excited. We had the 3 fastest runners in college football, but they are the least productive because they didn't get the balls in their hands enough. Hopefully we can use our playmakers in this offense. So, Frederick, let me break this down for you just a little bit, in my opinion. Okay, you can take it for what it's worth. I 100% hear what you're saying here. This all goes back to the offensive line. And I know that seems oxymoronic with wide receivers out on the edge and stuff like that, but it really does. If you cannot establish a solid running game, they are going to be able to key off on the wide receivers, and then they're going to be able to shut those down, and you're not going to be able to get them in situations where it makes sense. All of Auburn's problems under Coach Malzahn could have been fixed by the offensive line, and they needed another year to do that, in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there at this point. But yes, your point stands. I just think that you have to trace it all the way back to the offensive line. It's not so much that they can put them in the situations all they want, but if they cannot provide adequate blocking anywhere, it's not going to matter. All right, we finally got to use some people saying some names for defensive line. Brick is who he wants. Bring back Tracy Rocker. That's another one. It's kind of like he falls into the Damian Craig situation for me, where I'd love to have an Auburn guy back, but we've sung that song, danced that dance before, and so I'm kind of like, now. Yeah. Number 6 carried Alabama. Yes, he did, but that's a once in a lifetime player right there. Would Rocker want to leave GA? I thought he already left. I thought he left Georgia and went to somewhere else. Am I wrong? Someone correct me. I'm with you on T. Will. I think he would do well coaching outside linebackers and edge rushers. Yeah, I do think that he would. He's already proven to have done that well, and he's a great recruiter. He's a great players coach. You need a coach like that on the team, and that's in a time when there is a lack of stability for the program, and you need something for the players to feel good about, and a lot of the fans for that matter. T. Will is a unifying factor on that. It's hard not to love T. Will. James, Trooper was dirty in recruiting. Stay away. As far as we know, right? We can't prove it, but if it kind of felt that way. And here's the thing. I love Trooper Taylor. My wife and I have a picture with him that we got during the national championship year. We love the dude, but it just feels that way sometimes, doesn't it? War Eagle Joe. Too big for returns for Auburn on the defensive side. We addressed that a little bit yesterday. I think you're talking about Roger McCreary and forget the last one. But, yes. What's up, Kenneth? Offensive line. Sad part about coaching turnover is watching families leave. I've become more attached to the Garner family and hate that the city of Auburn may lose him. And that's a possibility, right, Orel? And that's – I think that's why, honestly, some of us get so, cemented, for me personally with the Malzahns. How do you not like the Malzahn family? Personally. The fact that it's not that they're not going to be part of the Auburn family. I mean, his legacy is cemented here forever by the Kick Six simply alone. But I just don't, it's hard sometimes to let go of some of these people. And while, there were rumors that Gardner was part of the whole ousting of Malzahn along with Steele, I still don't have those bad feelings for him because he's been here so long. He's an Auburn dude, and I just like the man. So I really, he reminds me of one of those old, just hard-nosed coaches, and I just love him. So I agree with you on that. Rockers at South Carolina, thank you. I knew he had not gone to Georgia, or he was gone from Georgia at this point. I love David Rocker, but I just think it's time to move on from that at this point. People are saying Wayna Morris, offensive tackle for Tennessee, might be transferring. You think we get a chance at getting him? He is Popo's teammate, apparently. Well, any connection helps, right? So if you bring in some Tennessee coaches, if you already have a former teammate of his, that obviously is a couple people in his ear. If he does transfer to come over, and I think a new exciting opportunity with a new coaching staff like this probably excites him. So I would say when you hear these speculations that always come up with new coaches coming in, because that's kind of the thing that comes with the territory, you should always take it with a grain of salt. Even if it looks good, it looks like it makes the most sense for him, just be careful about that. I don't have any information otherwise to think so, but I always like to err on the side of cautious optimism when it comes to this type of stuff, because then I get my feelings hurt and I get let down. It's just the way things go these days. Joe, we bounce around a lot on these streams. He's asking what's the current topic. So really it can be whatever you want, but we're really kind of walking through some of the positional coaches that are remain to be hired. We walked through wide receiver a little bit, and then defensive line is now kind of where I figured, we would we've kind of done the big ones that are left. Special teams, Ricky Brumfield, Virginia special teams coordinator. Does that excite anybody? Does anybody else have another option? I think Larry Porter, if you want to talk about retention, just got here to Auburn, or not just got here, but not been here as long. I think that's a potential as well. Would you rather bring in someone new? Would you like a Larry Porter to stay, or would you prefer Ricky Brumfield or someone else? Special teams, anybody? What you got? And then I think we'll address one other. We've kind of already talked about all of the coaching positional situations a little bit, but I think there's some others left there. Any chance of us flipping Rock Taylor from Tennessee without a wide receiver coach on AU staff? Well, I think you've answered your question there. I don't know that any player really wants to come when they don't even have their positional coach in place. I think you've answered your own question with that one. But yes, I would say I as long as there's not a coach there, I don't know that you stand a chance of getting that. Now, doesn't it feel like this week that we're going to get some clarity on the wide receiver and defensive line at the very least? Maybe not special teams, because what it may amount to is coach is satisfied with who he has and tells someone else that they're going to be the special teams coordinator. We've seen that happen a lot. A lot of the time it gets transferred over to the tight end coach, Brad Bedell. Probably I can see that happening. So maybe that is kind of what starting to take shape there. QB room gone. Be full with Bo, Demetrius Davis, and Gunner. If we get Gunner, and people keep forgetting, Khalil Garnett is there. So you've got three you've got one capable quarterback that we know of in Bo Nix. To what degree we can talk about that's the whole. Oh, he's not a good quarterback. Oh, he is. That's not the argument you need to be having. You need to be having to what degree. So he is a very good quarterback, serviceable quarterback. Demetrius Davis on a high school tape looks serviceable, but is he on college? We'll find out. Same thing with Khalil Garnett. I would put more stock in him right now because he's been in the even though he hasn't really played, he's been a part of a team playing against that type of talent and has gotten used to the speed of the game just a little bit more. But Demetrius Davis could come in and quickly overtake that if he's as good as advertised. But yes, I don't know that. I think if Gunner gets here, you got a pretty full quarterback room, and that'd probably be nice to have. Josh says, wonder if we'll push for any Boise player transfers in before it's all said and done. Yeah, I felt like that would have already happened personally, especially with the staff that's already arrived from Boise State. I think 3 staff members, Brad Bedell, the linebacker defensive running game coordinator, whatever kind of position that is, and then the chief of staff, Brad Lorando, I think is how you say his name, for Brian Harsin, so essentially the assistant AD. I thought we would have already seen that happening. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it just kind of felt like maybe that would already been in place if that was going to go that route. I think it's a lot easier for a coach to make a big shift than it is for a player. When you kind of get there, you kind of want to. It's if you've got yourself solidified as a starter, do you really want to leave? Even if it's, I guess to come to the SEC would be a great option, but we'll see. Let's see. We're going to need more running backs if it's only Tank and Shivers. I'm sure we'll bring in some more. Does anyone know anything about the new strength and conditioning coach, Jeff Pittman? Other than the fact that he is Brian Harsin's guy, that is all I know. This is going to make me sound very judgmental and very shallow a little bit. When I look at the dude, I don't get the vibe strength and conditioning coach. Now, that's just our stereotypes, right? That we think of these almost bald guys with just, that are either very, very buffed out or very like lean and just ripped and stuff like that. We think of Ryan Russell as you think of the roid guy over at Alabama. Doesn't mean that's who it has to be. But when I looked at him, I was like, strength and conditioning coach? That is a position where you want the head coach to have their guy. So the fact that that's his guy from Boise State, that's all I needed to know there. But unfortunately, I just don't have that type of information to know anything further about him. But I know I think I read his bio. He's certified in all these different areas that you need to be certified in. And you want a head coach to have their strength and conditioning coach be the guy, because he's going to develop them the way they want to be developed for their system. So there needs to be some synergy there. I wonder how many transfers we will get due to the new multi-area coaching staff that will come and help. I think the way that we have stretched out our potential coaching hires and current coaching hires has been very key for not only recruiting but potential transfers coming in. I think that was very strategic. But you don't want to make a coaching hire simply for those two things, because if you do, we get stuck in a Herb Hand situation. Great recruiter, terrible coach. Somebody was going to bring it up eventually. I think we purged most of the Bama fans that wanted to pop in here and just kind of remind us that we still live in their heads. Now that Saban has won 7 titles, do you think he'll retire? It doesn't. It doesn't even matter to me at this point. I've said that the dude was going to retire within a year, 3 years ago, and he still hasn't. So I think he's bound and determined just to make sure there's no doubt that he's the greatest college football coach. So I've just accepted the fact that he's going to be there. And you got to find a way to beat him. Gus Malzahn did. But we got rid of him. I'm sorry. I'll stop. Probably won't, but anyway. Thomas, yes, I think that we may have 2 more coaches by Friday. I think that's a high likelihood. Like I said, I think wide receiver and potentially defensive line are going to be figured out. Special teams, I think, is still up in the air. You don't usually see that get figured out because that's kind of a position like we talked about that you can give it to someone else if you don't want to bring in just someone specific for that role. Miss having Yoxlet strength and conditioning coach. Yeah, that was a very, like Auburn type of guy that he'd been there forever. And so when that change happened over to Ryan Russell, I remember being very sad about that because I went to camps and was trained by, Kevin Yoxel and staff. So I have some fondness there too. And I liked Ryan Russell while he was here, but the head coach needs his guy in that position. But it doesn't mean that we can't miss him. Let's hope the last is better than the last one. Our linemen were like 3 sizes smaller. That has nothing to do with not nothing. It has very little to do with the strength and conditioning coaches. It's who we recruited and who you got to trace. That's, I think, and I'm not picking on you, Ihan, but like, you've got to, when you see a problem, you can't just go to what's the obvious answer. You've got to trace it back to the actual source. It's kind of like the thing. If you're treating the symptoms, you're not going to fix the disease. So you got to go trace that back to figure out what it was. For the offensive lineman, it all goes back to Herb Hand. One decision, which was, and I have said from day one, once I realized it became a problem, probably after the first season he was here, Herb Hand was a bad hire for Coach Malzahn, and ultimately rolled over and resulted in him getting fired. And the type of players that he brought in, which were great, but they never coached him up, resulted in a situation where players. Do y'all remember Calvin Ashley? How great he was supposed to be, and he left. Several other scenarios where he left, where this player left, letting us bring in patchwork, and we never had a solid offensive line. Injuries as well worked into that. So you've got all these pieces that haven't been there a long time, haven't worked through the system. Offensive lines are best when you've got a group of guys that come in together. Now, it doesn't have to be all 5, but a majority of them, 3 or more, and work together, build together, get stronger together, get bigger together. That's what fixes that problem. Need the big hogs up front. Yeah, I do agree with that. You want to get a bigger size, but sometimes you don't always. Bigger. Well, I was about to make a comment there, but I'm going to leave that alone. Josh, Gus has a good coach, but don't be surprised if a Power 5 school picks him back up. I don't know that that'll happen anytime soon. I would suspect Coach Malzahn would go. I think he'll spend some time doing Power 5. Yes, he could go to like a smaller Power 5. Yes, I will concede on that point. But I think he'll spend a couple of years just being a commentator and sitting on that $21 million. It feels good. You may say it sucks to be Gus Malzahn getting fired, but I say it rocks to be Gus Malzahn right now. We tend to do better on odd years with our home schedule. We will finally win. Will we finally win in Baton Rouge? It looks, if LSU doesn't get a lot better than they seem this year, if Auburn is at least as good as they were this year, a little better, it seems to maybe be an even matchup. So if there was going to be a year where it made the most sense to break that streak, maybe. You want to talk about Brian Harsin making a splash, you go to LSU and win. He does that, he will win over a lot of Auburn fans, because that was much of the chagrin for Auburn fans with Gus. JB Grimes, yes. Which Grimes, though? I forget his full name, but the first Grimes coach under Coach Chiswick was great. I met him a couple times. JB Grimes also was great coach, and he was a pretty good recruiter. Not as good as Herb Hand, but he was a way better coach. And so watch the transition here. So we bring in JB Grimes, solid offensive line for the most part during his first tenure here. Herb Hand gets all these big 5 stars, 4 stars, but they drop off in terms of their production and talent and strength and conditioning, all that together. And then when he leaves, JB Grimes, where he's had his health issues, his time away, he's trying to patchwork because Coach Malzahn brought in a guy that was better at coaching and fixing problems, but they were so bad you can't even fix it. And then we bring in Jack Bricknell and expect him to do it in 1 year, and we get mad at him? Can't do that. Christian Westerman is another O-line that really fizzled out. But I thought he went to the NFL, though, didn't he? I don't know that he fizzled out, but I think we probably expected a lot more from him. Oh, Lee. Oh, I hope you realize that what I'm about to say, I'm not picking on you. Tight ends do not fix our problems. Will Bobo utilize the tight end more effectively in his offensive passing game? I'm not very familiar with his philosophy. Hopefully he will attack the middle of the field with our bigger targets. I think I will concede that attacking the middle of the field more would be a priority. Tight ends necessarily aren't the solution to that problem. I think a lot of people are asking the question I haven't pinpointed what Coach Harsin does as an offense. I think that's a good thing. He's called multiple or whatever it is. Means he switches it to what he needs, personally, is what I believe to see. So I'm not picking on you for the tight end comment, but it's just there are these things that Auburn fans just can't get off of. Tight ends. That is one of the big things. So I'm not picking on you whatsoever. It's just kind of always funny. All right, I think we're going to say goodbye to the Twitter folks. Reminder, if you'd like to come over to YouTube, we stay on here a little bit longer. But appreciate all of y'all being here today, and we'll talk to y'all later. I used to not even tell them to come on over here because I just forgot to. But I appreciate so many of y'all being over here. Y'all are the bigger crowd anyway, and a little bit more interactive, so that's kind of why I treat y'all to a little bit longer time than those ones over there. Let's see. And not that they're not important, just, Westerman transferred to Arizona State, and I believe, not sure if he made it to the NFL. I thought he did. I really, really thought he did. LSU and Georgia, I've said it before, that would be a great way to start. Never mind Bama, they are on a roll and can't be stopped right now. This year they couldn't. Next year, it's a different story. Wouldn't mind seeing Chandler from Tennessee transfer in to help the depth at running back. He's got experience. Yeah. I think you need to go get guys for depth, not that I don't believe in competition and think Tank shouldn't have somebody push him, but we got a good guy in Tank. And I think Shivers too. I think you need to focus on depth more than finding the guy. But maybe that's why you're mentioning Chandler over there from Tennessee. Overall, looking at the coaches we got right now, do you think we are better in terms of recruiting? The hype tells you yes. I think the coaches are already naturally at a disadvantage because a lot of them are not from this area, even though we brought in some that are from this area. And because you don't have those relationships built with the high school coaches, which is why it was important for him to retain some Auburn guys that were currently here, that were from here, and to bring in some Southeast guys. And he's done, I think, a great job of selecting those so far. So do you think we're better in terms of recruiting? That's a tough one to answer right now, Yihan. It really is. The hype says yes. I would like to reserve judgment until I see the first year of that. And I know that's a cop-out and an easy answer, but I just don't feel comfortable saying we're better in recruiting yet. It looks like it, but the proof is in the pudding. And I'm not talking about stars, and I'm not talking about class rankings. I'm talking about what the recruits look like that bring in, and you need to answer that over a year or two. Let's see. O-line and QB play, the solution. Start with the O-line and then fix. Yes, I agree. And you've got them in the right order, Kowalski. Appreciate it. I really do appreciate the kind words. You know, sometimes we get some trolls on here that love to just, I'm fine with criticism as long as it's productive and constructive. But, you know, you get these people in here sometimes who are just out to make enemies. So here's I don't know that we've seen Kevlar X2 before, but welcome, by the way, if it's your first time here. There's two questions that new people always come in. Will we use the tight end? Are we keeping T-Will? Nobody knows outside of Coach Harsin. If he knew that, he would have answered it by now. I said yesterday that I was kind of leaning towards the longer this goes. I think it's the more the favor of T-Will staying. I don't know though. Does that make you feel good if you're T-Will, if it's taken this long to hire you? And we don't even know. T-Will may not even want to stay. I think he does probably, but he may be looking to take his next big thing. But he is a rising star in the coaching ranks, and he should be highly sought after. Don't get caught up in the hype as an Auburn fan. Don't get caught up in the hype as an Auburn fan. I don't understand I don't understand what that was, but anyway. Better than cable. Well, there's so many things better than cable there, but I appreciate that. The transfer portal can be a saving grace and a curse, but I think Carson will utilize it. And I think that is the trick there, is finding that balance between the grace, saving grace, and a curse. If you can find that sweet spot, you've made it work. I don't think you should go to one side or the other. Christian Tutt is this breaking news, Austin? Christian Tutt now in the transfer portal after previously saying he's going pro. That's another one. I'm going to be sad that we lost. I know there were some frustrations with him at times, but yeah, I did like having Christian Tutt, King Tutt, and that hair too. Let's see. Tank wins the Doak Campbell within next 2 years. Calling it now. That is a fair guess, and I will say that you are probably right. I think he will win multiple awards. He is a great player. Can't believe we haven't found a position for Chris Peterson. It's another popular name that everybody wanted for a time. Chris Peterson at one time became the Bobby Petrino. Everybody wanted him, but nobody knew why. And I personally, I just feel like Chris Peterson's time is done in terms of by his choice. Not saying he couldn't come over here and be successful. Just, I know you were being more funny there, but yes. With all the transfer portal players leaving, how many scholarships will Auburn have to offer? I do not have that's a great point. Anybody good with numbers can do that real fast? That would be interesting to know. It's a great question, though. Can we get Darwin Adams? I think Darvin Smoove, yes, as wide receiver coach and T-Bell as safety coach. Yes, if we want to go to full like Auburn, or as this phrase everybody was using, Jabba, just Auburn being Auburn. I think that's full Jabba right there. I hate that phrase, but that just makes sense, doesn't it? If you bring those people in, Darvin Adams, I don't really see a reason for him to become wide receiver. Now T-Bell, I love Darvin Adams, but on T-Bell I could get excited more. When he just threw, who is it? Was it John Parker Wilson, or was it, which one was it? The one that married Catherine Webb. I think that's the one that got thrown down on this side. That was pretty awesome. Tank could be much better than Trey Mason. I think he is much better than Trey Mason already in terms of where they were at proportionally. I think all you got to do is look at numbers to say that. Tank's taller, I believe, than Trey. And I think so. Imagine Tank squashed down to almost like a Sean Shivers type of player. So the bowling ball with more size to him. So that's literally, if you could combine Sean Shivers and Tank, that was Trey Mason. I think that's what made him so successful. Had the shiftiness and bowling ball aspect of a Sean Shivers, but just could run you over and stiff arm you and was just strong. So great comparison there. And then Trey had a better O-line. Absolutely true there as well. So, yeah. Okay, couple things here, and we're about to round up our time here. Assistants, and nobody even really got excited to talk about special teams there, so we won't really hash that out too much. But, there's still the question of will Travis Williams be kept on. Another option that's on the table that was on the Auburn staff is Al Pogue. Came over this season. I think he originally came over in a quality control, but then was given an assistant coaching job there for Auburn. That's another one that has potential there as well. Here's what I'd like you all to do. Rapid fire questions, comments about anything Auburn, or anything in general, really, that you can put in right now, and we'll come back to them in just a second. Let me give you my spiel here at the end that we always want to make you aware of. And I have a graphic for you guys now that I've brought back into the fold. So make sure you take a look at that. What I'm going to give you in the chat window right now first is our podcast link, and that is for Apple Podcast only. However, it's on any podcast app out there. If it's not on the one of your choice, please let me know, and please go check that out and subscribe. We have had a huge jump in numbers of downloads lately, and that's in large part thanks to all of you here that have been a part of these live streams. So that is a huge thank you to all of you. The other link that I'm putting in is our E2C Network Booster Club, which is essentially a Patreon. Hold on, I'm trying to find it here. It's taking me a minute to get it. Is a Patreon campaign where you can sign up as little as $1 a month, get yourself some nice little perks on the side, be featured in a podcast to share your Auburn story, and so maybe some peril at certain levels. It doesn't hurt to go check it out. So that's all I ask that you do is go see if it's worth your while. Because believe me, as little as $1 a month is one less cost that we have to pay for here to host podcasts, to do things like this, equipment, all that kind of stuff. So if you enjoy this content that we're producing here on the podcast, we'd appreciate you checking that out. So that's the main things that I have. And if you're not subscribed, please do so here. We have jumped up. We are closing in on 750. Only getting real close to that final march to 1,000 viewers, which would be huge in terms of on YouTube. If a lot of y'all know about that, that's a big mile marker for advertising and stuff like that to help finance all this kind of stuff. So if you can do that, that would be humongous help, and hit the notification bell. And if you enjoyed this stream today, don't forget to smash that like button. All right. Keep the questions coming, comments coming. I can do some rapid fire here at the end as we finish up our talk today. McElroy, that was the one. Thank you, McElroy. Seeing him just boom. But I thought it was AJ McCarron. I thought AJ McCarron had come in for McElroy because we had hurt him. I could be wrong, but that they were there at this. He was the backup to McElroy. Imagine Tank and Nick Marshall with that O-line. So here's the thing. Yes, imagine that, but I still would take Trey Mason. The guy found some type of level that he just maxed out on, along with Nick Marshall and that offensive line at the same time. I think on paper that sounds good. I still would take Trey Mason, though, in that situation. Because that means if we swapped those in that scenario, I don't know that Trey Mason would be as successful in this scenario here. Just opinion. Let's see. Will this coach try to add more uniform options like the Pac-12 likes to use Oregon and their 300 uniforms? You know, Chris, I don't know if you are a follower or fan of my friend Clint Richardson, who's been here on the network as a contributor before, and he frequents as a guest now. But he runs the Auburn Uniform Database. He has written an article about that potential prospect, and I think he even dispels it a little bit, but he just says, if this were the case, should go check that out. And he usually every year does a favorite like Auburn uniform variant that I think is always pretty entertaining and frustrates me too because I'm a traditionalist. So go check that out. Definitely go check that out. But yeah, I don't know that you might see something. I think Brian Harsin though understands that he's come into a very tradition-based location, and doing those type of things, at least at the start, is probably not in his best interest. I could be wrong, but I think he understands that. Austin says, what's your favorite building on campus at Auburn, Kyle? On campus? I was about to say, did we talk about Auburn, period? So he's asking me a question, too, that's part of our series Auburn Roots that we do, which is where we let Auburn people come tell their Auburn stories. Which is a really great insight. By the way, we just interviewed Scott Scroggins, who's Scroggins Noggin on Twitter. If you haven't checked him out, a great story there you'll want to go check out. Wow, a lot of likes coming in all of a sudden. Thank y'all. Let's see. My favorite building. This is going to be the lamest answer ever, but like, you know how like when you go to a place in time and you can like right now I'm just thinking about it, and I can visualize walking through this area. I can visualize the smells, the sounds, the feel of it, like the way the temperature was in it. Like, I know this sounds way too, like, Kyle, you're thinking way too much into this, but honestly, like I can picture this, and it's Funchess Hall at Auburn. And to me, that is why that's important to me. And I shouldn't say it's my favorite, but I'm going to say like that's one of my favorites for now, because I'll maybe answer that on a deeper level some other time. But Funchess Hall, otherwise known as Fungus Hall, because there was fungus growing down in the bottom that we knew of. It's an old building I hope they never get rid of. But like, to me, that was my senior year at college, and I spent so much time there. I just remember walking across. I had to walk all the way across campus to it, and I just got this great view of campus every day. And going to class there, learning something that I really loved. Like, it just brings back those memories that, you know, are very fond. And it's kind of sending chills down my back right now. Y'all are like, Kyle, you're weird. But that's just my honest answer. Jay Flowers, just here, get a quick recap of what's going on. We're about to head out, but we've got tons of stuff that we've talked about. We broke down wide receiver, defensive line, special teams, and then potential Auburn retention coaches that we might don't have any update on T-Will. People seem to be in favor of Wyatt, I think is let me make sure I have his name correct. Yes, Darryl Wyatt for wide receiver coach. Nobody has like really a good choice for defensive line at this point, but that's kind of where we are. Maybe we'll have an answer. We're expecting 2 coaching hires this week. That's, you know, just all of us talking here. And I think that's a pretty obvious choice there. That's been our problem. We haven't recruited at high level for every position outside of quarterbacks and running backs. Maybe, Josh. I don't know if I agree with that completely, but I see what you're trying to say there. Trey was nuts at the SEC championship game. Absolutely slashed. Oh, gosh. I just remember sitting in my living room watching that game and just having so much fun. Kevlar said Student Recreational Center. That's a good one too. The old student, I think, is what you're talking about. KJ probably better. I don't want to sit here like and just say one was better than the other because I think they're all situational, right? But I think KJ was better for the time that he was there, and I think Trey was better for the time, and I think Tank's gonna be better for the time that he was here. Orel dropping some real like good stuff here. I feel that way about Sewell Hall. Was the best cafe on campus. I think I got to walk in Sewell Hall like once or twice, and so I wish I could. There's these foggy memories of it, but I don't have it like I do for Funchess Hall. Like, I just know Funchess Hall. Same thing for the Auburn Baptist Campus Ministries. I spent a lot of time there. I actually lived there for 2 years. As the resident and took care of the building and stuff like that. So I had that same notion, and they're basically opposite sides of campus of each other. and I walked from one to the other. And so it's kind of like I got to walk across Sanford. Like, see, we're not even, this is why I love doing this stuff, because we can talk about sports, but then we can shift into this stuff. And I know it may bore some of y'all, but to me, Auburn is so much more than sports. That's a big thing. It's an important thing, but so much more. Where could I check it out about the uniforms? auburnuniforms.com. auburnuniforms.com. If you're not following Clint Richardson on social media, he's on Twitter, Instagram. He's the Auburn uniform guy. He's the guy you want to go to for all that stuff. So check him out. If you want to see variants, his take on Brian Harsin, I think that's the most recent article that he's put up there on auburnuniforms.com. Same SEC only schedule this year. Chris, I hope not. I wouldn't be surprised if, there's so much that goes into that question that I probably shouldn't get into here because it involves things that probably are very, very controversial. I hope that we will have a regular season next year because I want to see that Penn State game happen, and I would love to travel to it. There's a lot of other things that are in play there, whether that happens or not. But, hey, did we all enjoy the SEC schedule? I did. It was fun. I loved having more SEC games. But I think in a perfect world, you would play 2 non-conference games, 1 major team and 1 meh team, and then play the rest of your SEC schedule. Heard AU is the new favorite to land Gunner Stockton 5-star dual threat. We talked a little bit about that earlier, Blake, so I won't rehash that too much. But I would say that, yes, it makes sense, but don't get too excited about that right now. I know that's the hype, and I'll try to talk about this a little bit before on live streams. I hope all of you realize that the media groups out there that are very informative, and they do a great job, but their job is to get you to click and get into their message board forums and talk about it. That's how they make their money. So sometimes they will word things a certain way, and the media does this in general. It's just not just Auburn stuff. Their job is to get you to click. So always think about that when you see something that looks almost too good to be true. And I'm not saying this is too good to be true. I think it's probably going to happen. But just don't get too excited about it right now. Just wait a little bit. But I mean, it would make sense, right? Who was the wide receiver coach under Tommy Tuberville? Oh, gosh. You shouldn't have asked me this. I should know this. Somebody in the Knox. There it was. Thank you. Greg Knox? Is that who it was? What do you think about what about uniforms do you think they will ditch the traditional look? If you're asking what about the traditional look, I hope none of it. They better keep the Northwestern stripes. We just did a podcast with Clint talking about Auburn and Northwestern's connection around the bowl game, but around uniforms and where the Northwestern stripes actually came from them. So check that out on the podcast thing. But I don't know, maybe something with the pants, but you'd have to mess with the Northwestern stripes a little bit. See, there's nothing I really want them to mess with. Maybe something with the front or the shoulder pad. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't really want to entertain that thought. Looks like a decent staff so far. Somewhere said they may be looking at US. Yes, we talked a little bit about that, about Wyatt from UCF, not USF, Central Florida. I don't know much about him, but he seems to be the popular name. Bruce, my uncle was president at Penn State back in the 1970s, went there for a week and almost got a job there. If I'd wanted it, it's just too cold to stay. You see, isn't this nice? It's cold down here in the South right now, but we just have it so good most of the, when we hit that perfect time in the fall where you wake up and there's just enough cold where you might want to put on a jacket, but you might brave it and not put a jacket on. And then the rest of the day, it's just like high 70s. Oh, that's like the best thing ever. Although not too realistic, it would be cool to have an E2C network tailgate one day. So Josh, that is a great point. We have actually done that before. So what I did is, we have grown a lot this year especially, and are doing so now, but we grew at some capacity. We kind of had some slow years as well. So what I did is I partnered with some people who were having a tailgate, and I asked for permission for them to set up a table and put up a banner and stuff like that. And we we didn't make too big of a deal about it because we knew we wouldn't have a big drawing. But yes, I would love to have a tailgate or meetup. We've done meetups before where we'll just, not a tailgate, but like we had a meetup at the Student Center one time before a game, just to see who all wanted to come say hello. We had a bunch of people show up and a lot of our contributors. We've had a meetup here in Atlanta for the kickoff game with Auburn and Washington at the Chick-fil-A next to the stadium. Had some people stop by. It wasn't a big showing, but I like to do things like that. So yes, Josh, I would love to meet you guys. And me, when I say me, I'm not the only person that does this. I'm obviously the editor, the owner, all that stuff, but there are other voices, there are other important faces that you guys deserve to meet as well. So yes, would love to do that someday. Don't see the Athletic departing and letting the uniforms change. I wouldn't say ever, but I would say yes, I hope that you're right. Could brighten up the uniforms by just adding orange armbands, socks, and shoes. I think that you will see. I mean, that always changes. Armbands, socks, the way the shoes are, under stuff that they wear. That will always change and be varied. But, yeah. Josh is going to hurt my heart here. Alternate helmets would be cool. Maybe that tiger logo with the hat. Maybe that looks okay. It's making something old new. Maybe so. How are the trees holding up at Tumors? I live in Virginia. I haven't been there in the past year. This is going to break my heart. I have not stepped on Auburn. When we get to the time when the LSU game for basketball happened last year, so almost a year, probably a month or so away from that, we will have, it's the last time I was on Auburn's campus. That hurts my heart so much. When I was there and what I've seen, it looks fine. I would hope they'd be growing a little bit more by now, but who knows how much that area was affected. They can do the best they can to clean it up, but you'll just never know. Well, there was something else I was going to say. By the way, we are about to celebrate, I think if I have my days right, in like less than a week, our 7th anniversary. We're not going to do anything special. We'll make a post about it, but at the 5-year anniversary of having the network, we did a big podcast thing. We'll do it at the 10th. But 7 years we've been doing this. We started as the Ever to Conquer podcast, broke out into a network format and called it the E2C Network. That's what E2C stands for, if you haven't figured that out. E2C, Ever to Conquer. But 7 years we've been doing this, guys. It's pretty crazy. I live here, growing more and more, but still a long way to go. I think that's a good perspective on it, Austin. That's kind of the impression I get as well. Ooh, Orel. Trees growing nicely. Search YouTube for the Tumors live. There you go. This is why I love Orel. Orel is dropping useful stuff for us all the time. Go to the live stream and you can see exactly for yourself. All right, guys. Let's see here. I think that's it, and I do need to kind of break away. We've been on here for an hour, and I've loved talking with y'all. Y'all have been a great crowd today. Smash the like button on the way out, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Probably my schedule the next couple of days will be a little bit crazy, so unless some big news breaks, I don't know what it will be like, but just stay tuned. We'll have some new things to talk about very, very soon. War Eagle, guys. It's been great spending the day with you.